Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we tackle the issues that affect the customer experience at your store. Oops. Item number one, silence your phone. Whether it's the front of the store, the back of the store, or somewhere in the middle, every week I'm fortunate to have a great network of friends, colleagues, and associates that come on here and share what they do or what they've done to improve the customer experience at their stores. Real actionable items you can use in your store tomorrow. And this week is no exception. We are talking about cybercrime and fake websites. Now, a lot of people don't know these things exist until it happens to them. All right, and I'll give you a story. A good friend of mine bought a backhoe online, or so he thought. It turns out after the money was sent, all 10,000 of it, the backhoe never showed up. And that website has since gone down. And I was speaking with my friend Adam here about that. And I said, you know, there's more to that story than you can even imagine. I said, do tell. And he tells me about his friend Stuart, who was a car dealer in Arizona, who has an interesting story to tell. And he's also connected with Richard Foster. This guy is a law enforcement guy for many, many years in the UK. And he specializes in cybersecurity, ransomware, and threats like that. So we're all going to come in together and bring a show about cybersecurity. We're going to start with the current landscape of cyber crime, where it's at. The proliferation of fake websites. There's more to them than you can imagine. We're going to talk about phishing attacks and some defense mechanisms and things that you can do to protect yourself. These things are getting so sophisticated that it's really hard to tell. I have platforms that I log into all the time. And I was logging into StreamYard, and it was asking me for login credentials that it hadn't asked for before, and it was asking me to download something. I said, yeah, no, I don't think so. So I shut the browser down. I ran a malware scan, didn't find anything, and then went back in, put the URL in myself from the shortcut that I had, and lo and behold, that was gone. So if I was unsuspecting and I just went ahead and downloaded this thing, because it's kind of natural today, you know, there's always updates happening. One wrong click and we would have had a problem. So this show is going to be very exciting. Welcome, Adam, Richard, and Stuart. If you guys would be so kind as to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your background, starting with Adam, then Richard, then Stuart, and then we'll jump right into Stuart's story, because this one I'm chomping at the bit for.
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Dennis. I actually run two companies. One is Surge Metrics, serving car dealers with websites and a variety of other services, including Hispanic marketing, which I was on here before about that. And then another called Antigua Recon, which I founded about 3 years ago here where I live in Antigua in the West Indies, where we trained up a bunch of local young people to become pen testers and phishing experts. So that kind of brought me in contact with with Stuart, because he's a customer of mine. And when this thing happened, and then in the case of Richard and I have developed a good friendship over time. He's a little bit across the pond from me, but you know, we've worked together before. So I think that sums it up pretty reasonably.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Richard.
Thanks for having us on, Paul. Richard Foster, Brainstorm Security Limited, but that's a company that I've founded only in the last sort of few years. Prior to that, I left school. All my mates went off and worked in garages, dealerships. They were in sales, they were mechanics. And I kind of went there quite a lot and sort of kicked around those places. But I went off and did office sales. So that was kind of my thing. Then I traveled America and bought cars out in the States. And then from there, came back and joined the police. So I did 10 years uniform cop, doing all that sort of stuff you see on TV, TJ Hooker thing. I'm showing my age now. And And then I did about 19 years in serious organised crime. So I worked sort of in the UK, if you think of where London is, go towards where Birmingham is in the middle, everything pretty much in the south of Birmingham. That's kind of the patch I covered. We dealt with everything. So from murders, drug supply, that kind of thing, but specialised quite a lot in cyber and social engineering and the human factors of cybercrime I was really interested in rather than just the ones and zeros. So that was it really. And then when I left the police, I set up my own company because I had a skill set there. So things like I now do ransomware negotiation, open source intelligence gathering, and physical penetration testing. So breaking into physical premises. I don't climb fences. I'm too old for that kind of thing, but conning your way into places. So that's me really. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And Stuart.
My experience is boring compared to Richard's, and when I grow up, I want to be him. But
You need the accent.
give me time. If I spend some time over the pond, maybe I'd pick it up. But I can't get rid of the Chicago accent because that's where I'm originally from. I broke into the car business when I was 16 years old, selling cars at my parents' car lot in Waukegan, Illinois. And I worked every job in a car dealership: new, used, sales, service, finance, management, managing multiple stores, franchise operations, you name it. So for the last 18 years, own and operate Arizona car sales, used car lot in Mesa, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. And we try to take care of our customers. Our reputation is everything, which is why these circumstances have been troubling, to say the least, Paul.
Excellent. Welcome to the show. I want to give just a couple announcements. This show is in conjunction with Dealer Marketing Magazine. We're going to be doing some stuff together, and this kind of kicks that off. And I want to let you know about the platform. There's no perfect platform for streaming. The StreamYard platform is a good one, but it's not without issues. There are sometimes comments that are made that aren't visible in the platform itself that mysteriously show up after the show is over. I run my phone to see because there could be comments on my phone that don't show up in the platform here. So we start with Simone J. I'm super excited for this, such an important topic that is often not given the attention. And we have Steve Apicella. Hey, Paul, click here. See my comment. I see what you did there, Steve. And then I just want to make everybody aware how big the problem is. Let me just bring up this graphic. Now, these are obviously the statistics are always a year behind because that's how they track them, right? But as you can see in 2024, estimated annual cost of ransom victims by 2031 is projected to be $265 billion. It's probably going to exceed that, if you ask me. You see here, cost of crypto crime projected to $30 billion. Projected cost of cybercrime by 25, $10.5 trillion. Amount earned by cyber criminals for cybercrime activities, $1.5 trillion. So you get the picture here. This is something huge. And until it affects you, it's not on your radar. You know, it's like back in the day, nobody thought about backing up their data until they lost all their pictures. Then all of a sudden, backups became a thing. We had the ransomware situation with CDK and I think half the dealerships in the country. Nobody thought about it until we had to, right? And we're probably not out of the woods for that, with that for any time soon, because I refuse to believe that if cyber criminals have all that data, that they're just going to collect the ransom and just go away. I don't think that's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. It may be over time because a lot of this stuff, it's not things they act on immediately. They may lay dormant for years before tapping that data. So to kick us off, Stuart, You have an interesting story to tell, my friend, and I'd like you to share that.
Oh, do we? Oh, do we? I wish that we would have had the capability of like when Adam and I do calls back and forth, we like take turns presenting so I could show you some of the examples of these websites that they put up. But the bottom line is, again, we've been in business 18 years, have a great reputation, 4.8 on Google. Reputation is everything to me and how we run our business. And we started getting concerned about 3 months ago. We had a customer come in and they were looking to pick up a Maserati at our dealership. And we don't generally sell exotics. So we thought it was unusual. And then the customer said, well, we saw it on your website and we WhatsApped them money or they wired them money. I'm not exactly sure what, but the stories are all the same. And they came to our physical location because they list our physical location as their address on their website. Our website, www.arizona.cars, is different than the spoofing website that they put up, azdealership.com. But if you go on there, they mention Arizona Car Sales about 3 or 4 times. They mention our physical address. They have different phone numbers than us, but at the end of the day, customers don't care. They'll Google our phone number and they'll call us or they'll come into the dealership. So, and at that point in time, we said, look, that's not our car. This isn't our website. These aren't cars we sell. And, you know, they left and fortunately didn't become more of that. But these circumstances started happening like every 2 or 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was, and all the stories are the same. They come from out of state. We actually had, what was it, Adam? We had somebody from, I want to say Mongolia. They came in. They flew to LA and then they flew to our dealership expecting to take like a 23 Infinity that they paid like $10,000 or $12,000 for. That would be worth $50,000 on a, MMR.
If it's too good to be true.
And that's always the story, and that's what we tell people. So we've taken some steps. I've reported, Adam and his team did a great breakdown for me, and I kind of ran with it. I've reported it to Google. I've reported it to Facebook. And these guys are like weeds, gang. I mean, they're just, you chop them down, and then they come up with another site. There's another site that they have on Facebook, the 399 drives, and it's all, and the problem is that these are compelling pictures. They have like 10,000 cars on their site. And at the end of the day, they are priced all in various ranges like a real dealership. But at the end of the day, they've got that 1 or 2 or 5 cars that are going to hook you because they're 20% of what value is. And at the end of the day, they're not going to sell you that car. They're going to rip you off of your money. And that's the unfortunate thing. So while we've taken those steps, we've also disclaimed it in multiple parts on our website. If you're not communicating with us at this phone number, and if you're not communicating with our salespeople at this email, it's not us. And we've mentioned that on social media. We've mentioned it on our website. It's posted in the dealership. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, it just happened last week. Another customer, they came from Colorado and they thought that they were going to get this pickup truck that was a Raptor, a 2020 Raptor, and they paid like $15,000 for it. It continues. It frustrates me. At the end of the day, so far, we haven't been held responsible for it. But as we all know, it only takes one customer that gets litigious. And even if you are right and you are going to win, it still costs you money and time and effort and pisses off customers, which is not good.
Hey, can I jump in here, Paul?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we did the work for Stuart, the point of basically Google and Facebook, who are the 2 main organizations that are involved here, in the sense that Google lists the website that's searchable, and then Facebook also has the second website that they second page that they post selling cars. We laid out the argument that Stuart could use to send to Facebook and Google to say, hey guys, these are fake websites. Yep. And they need to be shut down. So we had a whole argument. 0. Nothing from Google or Facebook. We're doing another strategy now where we're going after the host provider to get them to shut it down. But the point is, part of the problem here isn't just the fake websites. It's the lack of responsiveness of the organizations that actually make those websites possible. The fact that Facebook allows these pages to be out there, and these basically fake pages to be able to capture customers, and then Google allows them to be searchable, when in fact what should happen is they should take a more aggressive stance in trying to wipe out these fake phishing sites.
I mean, there are more and more. I'm going to show you a couple of examples here. Let me just pull this up. A lot of people go on Facebook. Right? What you want to do is you want to make sure up at the top here, where you see the web address, okay, that's not Facebook. That's some other h1.ripway.com. So, you have to be suspicious of everything. When you're on any website, before you enter your credentials, take a look where the URL is and make sure that you're actually on that website. Here's another example. They look really legit, but they're not. The top one, you see HTTPS. Okay, that's a secure site. The one below, xyz-com.com, that's a fake one. So you have to become more and more aware. And just a couple examples, you'll get an email, supposedly from Amazon, to complete a survey. Okay, and a lot of this stuff is, they know people shop on Amazon. I think everybody shops on Amazon. Even the people that don't shop on Amazon still shop on Amazon, if you know what I mean. So for them to send you something from Amazon, it sounds good. Maybe get a prize for completing a survey. Look at the URL. That's probably the easiest way. And here's another one. Congratulations. Got a $90 promo reward. Look, nobody's sitting at home waiting to give you $90 for anything. Look at the URL, and you'll find a lot of times it's not even legit. All right, so it's a huge problem.
Paul, just to jump in on that, okay? So, and Adam will tell you this, okay? It's a legitimate Facebook page that the spoofer is spoofing my dealership on. It's a legitimate website that they're spoofing it, albeit with a different URL. So people can't be too careful when it comes to this. At the end of the day, again, the contact information is our physical address. They use our name in violation of our trademark multiple times, but at the end of the day, there's not the same contact information. They're not the same emails. People, I hate to say, they have to amp up their level of due diligence, but their BS detectors got to be firmly on, because at the end of the day, these people don't care. They're going to take your money. They're going to run away. They're going to hide, whether it's the backhoe one where the website goes away, or whether they just stop answering the phone, like what happened with these poor people that sent these people money.
It's crazy, because I'm very suspect on anything on Facebook. Facebook is just loaded with fake stuff. Okay, some people call it fake book. There are companies that sell products on there. Okay, we saw these bins for one of our businesses. Okay, so I'm being the smart guy. I researched the company. I see they've got some great reviews online. Seems legit. So I end up buying a bunch of bins. Well, the bins never showed up. Come to find out, it was not a legitimate business, and there were fake reviews. Fortunately for us, our bank reversed the charge, and we were able to get the money. It wasn't a lot of money. We're talking plastic bins for a retail store. So it wasn't like somebody wiring 10, 15 Gs and never seeing it again. Richard, what are you seeing out there?
Well, I was just going to say, Paul, one of the clever tactics they use, not so much in what's happened to Stuart, but that typo squatting, they call it, where they will have a URL and address very similar to the genuine address, and then they've just copied the website and steal the credentials, or they will do something similar to what happened. Because they know the majority of people now will access websites using a mobile phone, you've not got much space on a mobile phone, and therefore that URL is missing Unless you pull down the screen, you can't see it. So again, it's a great tip just to pull down the screen. Just double check before you start. And just like Adam said, it's too good to be true. It really often is.
Yeah, let me play off what Richard just said. So we have a customer right now that we're doing some work for. And the first thing that we did was we went out to register a couple of domains that we could use for a simulated phishing attack to train their staff. Because the reality is, and Richard will back me up on this, the greatest vulnerability is always the human being.
Yeah.
You could have the best infrastructure in place for cybersecurity, but it's the human that could break that down. So we went out and, for example, what you can do is you can register a domain and say there's an L in the domain. Well, exchange the L for a number 1, right? Suddenly it looks almost exactly like the original domain. And so as a consequence, when you send that email, anybody who's looking at it quickly, even if they're diligent, they might look quickly. Getting to Richard's point, especially if they're on a phone, they're not going to get it. So, one rule that I always say is the reality is you can use very old-fashioned techniques to combat this. So if there's any request for you to do something, and usually when they're trying to get you to do something stupid, they're pressuring you. They want a quick decision, right? All you have to do is do a little research to find the legitimate company and call them, right? Now, you wouldn't look at the website, you would then go research. So if it's at Arizona Car Sales, if you research Arizona Car Sales, you would have pulled up Stuart, you would have pulled up the legitimate information. And it might be that other website would pop up, but the reality is most of these websites don't last very long. So what would happen is in Stuart's case, there would be a ton of dumped information about Arizona Car Sales on Google, and there might be 1 or 2 instances of this new website, right?
Okay.
Not hard to figure out that the Arizona Car Sales that's on there 50 times to the 1 or 2 of the other instance, that's the one you should probably reach out to. Other thing is if someone's asking you to wire money, no, dumb idea, right? That's usually not how the stuff works. So you kind of have to develop these techniques.
Adam, for those reasons.
What's that?
We actually discourage it. We tell people, you know what, you could give us a deposit or whatever, but when you see, touch, and smell the car, that's when you can wire the money, or that's when you can do whatever. I can't think of a circumstance since COVID that we took wire payment for a full price of a car. And in fact, we said, do not wire us money unless we have given you specific instructions from one of our Arizona.cars emails.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, when you get these phishing emails, one of the easiest things you could do, particularly if it's a company that you work with and you know about, is you might have legitimate contact information for that company. Call the legitimate contact information to check up. So there's certain techniques that you can use to protect yourself, but sadly, enough people don't to then produce the statistics that you said earlier.
I think you're right, Adam. If there's any customers watching, a very simple one is to type in "who is" into any browser into the search bar, and then just copy and paste whatever the address is, and it will come up with the domain details. That's the details that was registered. You probably won't find out who that was, but it will give you a date and time when it was first registered. And if it's in the last month or the last year, if it's an established dealership, the chances are it's going to be completely fake. That would send the spidey senses.
I'm going to pile on to what Richard says here, because at the end of the day, and Adam and I and his team went through this whole project. You could do a who's search on them and find out that, it's domain hidden or security or whatever. Privacy, security. So at the end of the day, and this is what I always tell customers, okay? 1, if they're trying to get you to wire money, just wait. At the end of the day, if they want you to wire money, they'll wait an hour, they'll wait 2 hours, they'll wait a day for you to wire money. And do a Better Business Bureau search on them. Do a the simple Google search, just type in the address and it'll pop up all the dealerships. And again, if they would do that 48 times out of 50, it's going to come up a legitimate business, because the way Google works is obviously the more reviews, and this goes back, and I'm sure Paul has covered this on a different session, the more reviews you get, the more trusted you are, the more you come up. And the bottom line is nobody's going to type in Arizona Car Sales and have more reviews than us and more good ones. So the bottom line is that anybody searching this, we'll know it's a legitimate business. So at the end of the day, if it's too good to be true, it is. So you know what? If you have this desire that you think you're going to get one on somebody, wait an hour, wait 2 hours, wait a day. And at the end of the day, if it's still going to be there, believe me, they're still going to want to take your money.
I like the who is tip because that will give you the date, right? You can't be too diligent, right? If you look up the store on Google and you find out, how long they've been in business, but then you see the website, the who is shows that the website is a month old, then you know something's up. I would be willing to bet a lot of normal, legitimate businesses hide the who is ownership information. It's just what people do. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of websites, you won't find out the name or the address of the responsible.
I can tell you why they do that, Paul, because otherwise, if we don't hide it, then you get all the people emailing the owner of the dealership about their great company and their great business opportunity and everything like that. So yeah, you know what? It's worth the small amount of privacy that you pay, or you put. Not that I would ever say this, but you put somebody else's information in there so that and you delegate.
Right, and I don't know how stringent they are in checking that. Obviously, if they're not following up on legitimate crime, they're not going to check it. But I do have to let you know that the business has changed quite a bit. Okay, because oh God, I don't even remember how many years ago, but I've sold a lot of cars online. Through an eBay store, and I've sold and shipped used cars across the country, overseas, even new cars shipped. I lost count how many cars I sold. All right, and there was not one car that got on a transporter that wasn't you need to wire me the money in full. That's the way it was, and then once I verified the money on my end 3 times. Then I can sign the transporter to come pick it up and take it to the port in New Jersey to ship it overseas or to ship it to Arizona or across the country. Okay. Now, the other part of this that we want to get into is phishing. Okay. Not going for striped bass, but phishing with a phishing. All right. This is wicked easy to do. People can buy phishing kits, and we're not talking about a tackle box. But for as little as $25 on the dark web, you too can own your own phishing kit. All right. And people click on stuff. So when I would sell the cars on eBay, I tell them, here's where you wire the money. Once we have confirmed and verified payment in full, then we ship the car. All right. I would get emails from some of these scumbags that were fake emails, early days of phishing, that said, hey, you've received money, legit, click here to verify the funds. Well, obviously, if you click there, all you're going to do is they're going to hack your system. So I never clicked there. I would go in through another computer and another browser, and I would go into the account and see if we received the money. And lo and behold, most of the time when I got that email, there was no money received. So those were fake emails, right? People want to believe the good in everything. I'm sorry, but we're not in Kansas anymore. You can't believe that everything is good. You have to verify everything. And the other thing, too, I want to caution on is if they were to get a hold of a phone number that's very close to the phone number of your business and they clone your voice, right, which is relatively easy to digitize, and you call.
We do that.
You're screwed because now you think you're talking to Stuart when you're not. And you'll swear that, no, that's the same voice I spoke to. But it's not. Do you see?
And they can use caller ID as well and clone the name of the dealership to make it even more realistic.
That happens a lot. We get people all the time that they say that our number come up on their phone or whatever and show us.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't be too careful now. So all these people that show up at the dealership, they think they're picking up their car. They've all wired the monies.
Yeah.
$10,000, $15,000, $20,000. The money is wired gone out of their account and they show up unsuspecting. They think they're going to drive away.
Yeah, and this is another thing. I mean, almost all of them are on WhatsApp, and Adam and I have this discussion, especially when we talk about Hispanic advertising, about doing a WhatsApp campaign. We specifically do not have WhatsApp numbers at the store, and that the reason is not just plausible deniability, but it's just reality. I mean, if we don't have them, you couldn't possibly send them to us.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, WhatsApp is a common technique for a lot of these guys is to move you off Facebook onto WhatsApp. So, for example, if they're doing the promo on Facebook, they're pushing it there. Then what they want to do is move you off Facebook onto WhatsApp because they want to capture you in an environment that they completely control.
Yeah, from a
that's one
perspective. Yeah, I was just going to say exactly the same. That they will definitely move you into different areas, and I've seen this in different criminality as well, where they will try to alienate the victim and move them across. And things like PayPal, they'll say, oh, use friends and family to make the payment because that will go through automatically. But yeah, moving them from different platforms should always be seen as a big red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing is that the reality is getting to the verification thing. That's the most legitimate approach that you can use and the easiest approach you can use and learn how to do a little research online. So, for example, Richard's point of using Whois to look up to see the longevity of that website. The other thing is if you get any outreach from, I mean, I got to tell you these days, guys, I am so appealing to a lot of businesses that want to hire me because they think I'm just incredible. What's entertaining about it is that it's almost always a sock puppet site, social media page. And that's a term that's used in the industry to explain, to basically describe a page that's been created relatively recently. That's a fake page designed to try to trick people into doing things. I get a lot. I don't know about you, anybody else here, but I'm getting a lot of them recently saying, boy, my boss is looking for someone just like you to do X, Y, and Z. We'd love to interview you. Can we set up a conversation via WhatsApp to talk about this, that, and the other thing? And, because I'm sick and
we call that a Trojan horse.
Yeah. Because I'm a little bit sick and twisted. I think Richard has seen one or two of these. I've carried the conversation out for a while just because I can't resist. But it's bullshit. I mean, you just have to be, you have to. What's that?
Why people who message me on LinkedIn don't get a response from me, because 9 out of 10 of them are just BS bot sales pitches or whatever. And I tell people, if you want to get a hold of me, contact me at the dealership. You'll always get me there. But the people that message me on LinkedIn, it's like I check LinkedIn messages like once a week now because it's just all garbage.
Yeah, one thing, just something going back to the fake websites for anybody who's watching this and might say, "Hey, how do I check up to see if there's a fake website?" If anybody's used Google Alerts before, and if you haven't, just look up Google Alerts. I mean, you can actually use Google Alerts to basically monitor some key phrases from your website to see if they pop up on other websites. And Richard and I were discussing this the other day. They're not going to do an exact clone of your website because Google can pick up on that. What they'll do is enough of a clone of your website to basically appear legitimate, right? So you can use Google Alerts to basically monitor various phrases from your website and stuff like that. And Google will tell you, hey, this popped up. I use Google Alerts a lot for different news articles, different topics that I'm interested in. But that's one very easy tool that you can use. The other thing is, Google your dealership name, see what pops up, variations of your name. There are also various services you can use to monitor your domain name or variations of your domain name. Anybody's curious about that, just post questions. I can send you some options there in terms of what to use to look out for that. Another thing is look at your customer complaints. Any dealer that's worth his weight in gold is going to monitor, his reviews and complaints. If there are some complaints that are talking about certain things, like in case of Stuart, where people walked in looking for cars, I mean, that's pretty obvious. But in other cases, you might see a complaint that comes in, I did X, Y, and Z, and I didn't get what I paid for. Okay, let's pay attention to that. That might be an indicator as well. Right. So there are a number of techniques that you can use as a dealer or any business owner to set up some monitoring, and it's not too hard to make sure that nobody's trying to copy and take advantage of your position in the market. Richard, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, if I just expand on that, I think with the Google Alerts, it's just google.com/alerts. Very simple, totally free to do. And you can either monitor like a phrase, you might take a paragraph from your front page. That's the kind of stuff that people will just steal and put into their fake website. That's a very
Like
easy
the
way of
about
doing it.
section?
But sorry?
Like the about section? Stuff like
Yeah,
that?
like the about section, exactly, just like that. But the beauty of alerts is it monitors the whole web, and every time somebody else posts that exact sentence, you get an email about it, which is great. You can just do a quick one-off hit and just post a short paragraph into Google, and it will come back any exact matches. So that's another way of doing it.
But I
One of
also want to kind of caution what Richard is saying, okay? Because that's exactly what we did. And Adam did exactly that. And guess what? Nothing happened. So unfortunately, as a business owner, you have to take steps and be proactive on your side to protect yourself, protect future customers from being scammed. And unfortunately, that again involved putting alerts on social media that included posting articles and disclaimers on our website and letting people know. And again, just people, 9 out of 10 people research on the internet before buying a car. So, I mean, they go to Car Gurus, they go to cars.com, Auto Trader, Edmunds, you name it, or whatever. So the people that, and we tell people this all the time, when you buy a car privately, or you think you're buying a car from a dealership and it is way below what the value is worth, what's the common sense factor here? Because again, if we price cars 89 to 95% of market, and this car is 20% of market, it just doesn't make any sense. But as a business owner, you have to make sure that you put up those as many walls as you possibly can. And what Richard is saying is what Adam is saying is all great. We run all the alerts. We get daily alerts on anything that looks out of hand. If you don't have a team to help you try to take down these weeds, they will keep coming up, and these issues will keep coming up. And all it takes is one disgruntled customer for it to be a real problem for you and your business.
You make a really great point there, Stuart, about being honest and upfront on your website, saying that there's been these issues, because I think that builds trust with customers as well. Because when they come to your website, they're going to see they've been having these problems, or if they've been directed because they've found the website after looking at the fake one, they know you're trying to do something about it. So absolutely.
It's like having a fraud alert on your credit file. It's very similar to that.
Yeah, it's not perfect. There's by no means it's perfect. I mean, there are a number of techniques that you can use. There is nothing that's a clear fail-safe, but if you combine a series of techniques, you can actually put yourself in a better position. I mean, Stuart's suggestion in terms of putting information on Facebook and on his website to warn. The monitoring is another thing.
If it's a new website, it's not necessarily going to show up, is it?
Yeah. And the problem is, though, is that it's a spy versus spy, right? You might develop a technique to combat the problem, and the criminals are going to combat it, are going to create a new technique to then up the ante, and then it's constant back and forth. The problem is not so much the people that are fighting the battle; it's the ones who are unaware completely that there's a battle being fought. Those are the dealers that are most vulnerable. I mean, I think, Stuart, to your point of what Simone from Dealer Marketing Magazine, I mean, from what I understand, she's going to try to contact the newspapers in your area to bring it up because, obviously this stuff originally kicked off for an article that I wrote for Dealer Marketing Magazine about you. She's going to reach out to newspapers to bring it up and see if it can generate some stories locally, which would be good for you because it points out that you're a really concerned dealer who doesn't want their customers or even people that aren't customers necessarily, but to get ripped off. And that's
the problem is you get okay. So again, we have about 100 cars in stock. We're relatively small to the market. What if you're a dealership that sells hundreds of cars a month and thousands of cars in stock? What is the damage to your business by, I don't know, either being naive to it or blind to it?
Yeah.
So the approach is, are you playing offense or are you playing defense? And after playing some defense, we figured out we're going to play some offense now.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's how we're going to solve this problem. But this isn't a problem that you just, handle in a day or sending disputes or whatever. This is an ongoing thing. And if you don't have a cybersecurity commitment for your dealership, you're going to pay sooner or later.
Yeah,
Now, I
great
want to
point.
share just some stats here. This is David Rozek. He is very experienced in this and in artificial intelligence. On average, there are 19 ransom attacks per second that are blocked by security. This has increased since 2021 from 1 every 11 seconds. Okay, so security, it's really twofold. You have external security in the fake websites and things like that, and you have internal security. And David and I are friends with a company that had some really innovative security software that's really different than just about everything else I've seen in the market. So that's some scary stats right there, because it's only getting worse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
no,
only
you're
one answer.
absolutely
Yes.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
I didn't wake up this year and say I wanted to deal with this. Running a business, running an auto dealership is hard enough work, and to have to deal with one of these situations every 2 or 3 weeks, it's daunting. It's taxing. It's a waste of my time, but it's necessary investment.
And I feel so bad for the people, because when somebody shows up, that's a pretty rude awakening right there. You're all excited on the plane, and you walk into a dealership to find out that you've been duped.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking when you see some people come in with their families and they're thinking that they're driving home the car of their dreams that they got for a great price, and there's no car.
Yeah, I mean, when I first was started in the police, one of the sort of jobs I remember going to was a break-in at a dealership, and they'd just smashed the double glazed windows at the front, gone in, and they'd just gone to get the folders with all the keys for the vehicles, trying to steal the vehicles, but they were thwarted because there was a barrier down and they couldn't get past that. They hadn't brought the tools to do it. They'd escaped before we turned up. Now, those same offenders, they're trying to break in, but they're trying to get the data of your customers, and they're trying to get the details of your website to con customers. It's moved away from that physical trying to steal. I know that kind of still happens, but there's more money in this with the data. So it's about they're quite soft targets, I think, a lot of dealerships and networks, because they're still using some outdated systems, but it tends to be quite contractual heavy. So things like documents, it's all being held within those dealerships. Things like customer systems to hold those records. These areas are all still very sort of available to hackers, and because a lot of places haven't got full-time security teams looking after that cybersecurity element, it's now really dealerships maybe need to look at that and think, actually, that is an area of investment we need to look at to avoid losses.
I have to jump on this one, Richard. This is why the CDK breach was so troubling, because here's the thing. As a dealer, and my peers as dealers, we rely on these third-party vendors to keep customers' data secure, keep their phone number secure, keep their social security numbers secure, keep the transactions secure. And, these cyber crooks obviously thought that, these DMS and CRM companies were soft targets, and they got a lot of information, they got a lot of ransom, and short of going to a local server, these cloud-based DMSs and CRMs, they're not going away, gang. So at the end of the day, it's extra vetting you have to do with your tech stack at a dealership. But what kind of data security do they have? And you know, everybody says, well, CDK is the biggest, Reynolds is the biggest, whatever. And at the end of the day, anybody's a target. I've seen small companies get
Everybody's a target.
targeted.
Yeah,
I've seen
that's the rule.
say CDK to get targeted. So, you know, as a dealer, as any business, whether you're a car dealer or not, okay, you are responsible for your customer data. And to say that, oh, well, you know, they're a third party and they host our information off server, that's BS, man. You are liable for your customers' data, and
You know,
will
actually,
be sued.
Yeah, Stuart, let me play on that for a second. So I knew dealers who were working with CDK, and when that whole thing unfolded, I got on the call with them and I said, look, and some of these dealers, what they had was basically an open tunnel between CDK and their servers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And basically I just told them, I was like, turn that off right now. Because what was CDK, when it was that information was unfolding, it wasn't clear how badly compromised they were. But if you have an open tunnel between CDK and you, well, that's a way that the attackers can move laterally, right?
Right.
And
move from CDK to dealership local.
Exactly. So, you know, I had dealers and I had some of them that I talked to when I warned that. They said CDK hadn't, and I'm not trying to kill CDK, but CDK hadn't said shut down, you know. So, I mean, part of the problem is to get to Stuart's point, in the end, as the dealer, you're going to be often held accountable, because if your customers get compromised, then you're going to be put.
Yeah, actually, Adam, there's two things that we did at our dealership. And this was well before the CDK breach. Okay, so our DMS provider, our CRM provider, they do have a tunnel with the dealership. We have a Meraki device that basically is secure. If they don't have the credentials, they can't log in, and we can't log into them. So that's one way to do it. We also have a local server at the dealership, so the information's there, and that's obviously cyber protected and the like. So it's almost, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's almost impossible to hack a dealership. But again, you know, you start talking about dealerships that are enterprise value, multiple rooftops, multiple points of transaction. And again, I got people that are platform managers and CEOs and they think they're safe and they're not.
Look at the comment.
Yeah, I was going to mention.
Security is great thing, but 80% of dealers have dormant cyber intrusions that wait a year before activating. Okay.
Yep.
And then to follow up with that, AI has opened the door even more since it's an unregulated area. Data is being stolen by the second, and much just to profile for other marketing brands.
Yeah, I mean, David's got a really, really good point there. It's a combination of advancing technology in the form of AI, which is moving things very quickly. And then there's the old technology we have in our heads, which, you know, getting to Stuart's point is Stuart has been educating himself. I can tell you, he educates himself on a lot of stuff, so he tends to stay a little bit ahead of the curve.
I've had to go kicking into screaming into being data and SEO, SEM, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's my business, and if I don't run my business, I won't have a business to run. So, but Stuart, to compliment to you, for every one Stuart, there are a ton of people that don't do that, right? Whether it's the issue of educating yourself on the potential compromises that could occur in terms of digital intrusions, and being able to make sure you have the right software infrastructure in place to better protect you. It's also the training of the people, and that's the biggest problem. The training of the people that you actually have on staff to, again, mitigate risk. But, you know, I got a friend of mine, Kerry Johnson, up in Canada. He does phishing, simulated phishing attacks, and he also does cybersecurity awareness training. And there are a lot of tools that are out there on the market right now, not to beat up on anyone, but they'll claim that they're educating staff by saying we sent emails and here are the results that we got and da-da-da. Well, the problem is if you know, with some of the solutions that are out there too, you have to educate yourself about, because some of the solutions are acontextual. So if I got an email today asking me if I wanted to, you know, go grab some lingerie for myself, you know, I'm not going to click on that. Richard might. Richard might. He's British, but anyhow, we won't go get into that. But, not that there's anything wrong with that.
But
As long as it was red.
yeah, if it's pink, I like pink. But the point is that if it's acontextual phishing and it doesn't really capture the person, you can't come back and then say, "Oh, your staff's good, nobody clicked on it," right? Or if the technology, the technical skills of the people doing the phishing attack isn't high enough to be able to get around any filters that who you're attacking has in place, then great. You never delivered the phishing email to the customer, to the actual staff, to really find out if they fall victim. So there's certain things that you have to do where you have to research and learn how to do things well, right? And that's part of the challenge. Yeah. A guy like Stuart.
You're right there with that training. Absolutely imperative for staff on the ground floor and the senior level. And I think in particular for the senior level to do tabletop exercises, because it's not a case of if this happens, it's nearly like when it happens, let's be prepared, have a playbook where you've kind of gone through. So it isn't all one massive shock, because often organizations are in that shock and awe when this happens and don't know how to cope, don't know how to look at the media, for example. It might be staff are worried about if they're going to get payments, if everything's been encrypted, if they're going to get their wages. It's really minor stuff, some of it. If you've played through it in a tabletop type exercise, it can massively help.
Now, let me just add something here. Okay. And David's got a couple of great points here. People break us down first. Legacy firewalls are next defense. That you need a product that watches and locks down data once it identifies the intrusion and eliminates it. A simple emoji is not clicked on, but when you weigh 80% of them, they are encoded in an email. It is a cyber intrusion, and all firewalls let them by. They sit dormant. When you do these simulated phishing attacks, you're talking about, we hire you today. Next month or 2 months from now, you're doing a phishing attack. Okay, the type of stuff that we don't know about and that we don't catch are, to go back to David's earlier point, 80% of dealerships have stuff that lays dormant. Okay, for them, it's a long game. It's not I'm hiring a security guru to test my people, and in 60 or 90 days, I'll have the results. Okay, we're talking about companies that do this for a living. They are serious about it. They have software that's embedded in dealership DMSs for a year or longer, or years, while simultaneously doing some social engineering research to research the people that are in the store. Okay, to find out what they're about, what their traits are, what they're involved in, so that when they craft their phishing attack, it's a more targeted attack that they've launched, and that's the result that we don't see from a simulated test, right? So I'm in full agreement that the testing and the awareness is something that should be regular and ongoing. It never ends, because the problem's only getting worse. But we need to really build on that, because these criminals, these cyber criminals, they've been researching us collectively for so long that they're coming in with a smart bomb compared to some of the stuff that we're enacting now.
The CDK thing was the first shot in the war.
Yeah.
Once they figured out that they could get a lot of money from CDK, that put a target on dealers. That put a target on companies in the dealer tech stack, DMS, CRM, inventory management, you name it. It's fair game now. So, and like I said, that was just the first shot of the war, gang. We're in for a long one. So everybody's got to be prepared.
Thinking about that, and sorry. Carry on.
I have to laugh when I think about, some of these people that try to capitalize on the misfortune. Like, oh, we're more secure. No, you're no more secure than them. If they can get to the biggest DMS company, they can get to you, right? So, sorry, go ahead.
That's what I was just going to say. You talked earlier about that defense offense, and I think for dealerships, a really good defense move, very simple, is just having canary tokens within your infrastructure. Now, for some people, they might not be aware of what a canary token is.
Yeah.
Basically, a small file or an imaginary part of your server system that can be installed. You can do it for free. And if an attacker is on your system poking around in places they shouldn't be and opens up that file, and often these things are done automated, it flags up and will contact whoever's set that canary token up. So you know somebody's in there and they're messing about in areas they shouldn't be. Just another example of a defense that could be taken by dealerships.
Is that something that the multiple canaries?
Yeah, you can have multiple and all different types of canaries as well. It can be a fake server, for example, that goes in there. It could be a text file. It could be a spreadsheet that's marked passwords or customer data. It could be all sorts of things. And so long as the staff within know not to touch that, or you hide it where in an area where your staff wouldn't ordinarily go, if it's automated and you've got an attacker in there, they won't necessarily know that and find that. And then, boom, you've got an early warning system. Yeah, you've got a bad guy on the inside, but now you know they're on the inside and you can start dealing with it and working out when they've gained access.
Yeah, Paul, I want to speak again back to the CDK thing. And these companies in the tech stack, to be blunt, have made minimal investments in their security and their systems. In fact, we as dealers, we kind of joke for a long time. CDK and Reynolds, they've been running on legacy type systems forever and monetizing it. And so while we think they might have got some religion when you pay all that money in cyber ransom, but at the end of the day, all these companies that provide services to dealers either don't know, don't care, or they're going to keep monetizing their system and figure that that's the cost of doing business. And the problem is, as a dealer, as a business owner, they're playing Russian roulette with your business and your customer data, and you can't let that happen.
It seems every other day I either get a letter about some data breach or I see a story about a data breach. And nobody's immune. They can get into the Medical Information Bureau. You know, it was just a massive hack into everybody's Social Security.
It used to be, Paul, to that point, it used to be like the thing remember when there was the big Equifax breach? Yeah. Now it seems like I get like a letter from a company saying your file was breached. At this point in time, probably 50 people have my Social Security number and information or whatever. And it's like, oh, but we'll give you a free year of identity monitoring so you can watch what's going on. It's like, really?
That's bullshit.
That's it?
Yeah.
I should be more outraged because, like I say, it seems like I'm a hockey goalie these days. And it's like I'm going like this and like this and like this. And I'm trying to make saves and occasionally a puck gets through, and that's really, as a business owner, you got to try to make sure you mitigate as much of that as you can. But you're only as good as your partners. You're only as good as your team. You're only as good as you educate them. And there's people out there that do not or won't, or just say, I'm not going to make that training investment. I'm not going to make that security investment because it's cost me doing business. And at the end of the day, until it costs them, they're going to keep putting their head in the sand.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
I want to meet David. He's a real geek. I love him. He's having so much fun posting stuff.
Yeah,
David, I don't know you, but I'm getting a real kick. I would love to meet you, man.
If you're not connected with David, connect with David. The guy is smart. Okay?
I'm laughing my butt off right now.
Steve Apicella, data and cybersecurity are or should be everyone's responsibility.
Yep.
And David adds, I can add multiple 404 pages to Google search that look like you. And when a customer sees it, they just think the page was broken. But many times that search page is a data scraper. I love this guy. 2017 hackers breached the United States Postal Service. And David says it's crazy right now. Everything is compromised in one way or another. You almost feel funny leaving your house or turning on your computer or logging onto the internet. True personal security will have to be moved to the blockchain, and keys to your chain are secure. That's assuming nobody's pulling your chain when they're setting that up.
Until the chain's not secure.
So, but let me talk about, so that's, he's talking more high-tech solutions. There are some low-tech solutions to dealing with problems, right? So if you get solicited by someone who's pretending to be somebody that you know, one very easy solution you can have, you don't necessarily need a keyword, key phrase, or anything else. But if you know them, just bring up stuff that only you and they would know.
Yep.
And don't just not one piece of information, but multiple pieces, because you need to really validate. So if someone's done really good social engineering research, what's called OSINT, open source intelligence research on you, they might be able to pull one piece of data or two pieces of data. But if you're talking
the red underwear now.
No, it was purple. It was a thong. But anyhow, that's another issue. You can actually, like, if Richard called me and started saying certain things, hey, Adam, blah, I need this and blah, 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 I would just start asking him, where did we first meet? What is your favorite drink? What is this? What is that? And that's a quick way that.
Oh, so that's when you're asking what my favorite drink was earlier.
You know what? You guys are all just too much.
But that's how you have to do it.
That's how you have. So there's some old methodologies that you can use to circumvent some of the AI that's out there when they could, like, if I hear from Richard and I get this perfect British voice that sounds exactly like him, if I'm not paying attention, Richard could be an easy AI clone. It's not complicated at all these days. So, the way to break that clone can only know so much information. So there are some simple techniques that you can use to circumvent that. And it starts to come down to just a combination of smart technology stacks that you use, training that you use, and then some certain old-fashioned techniques like I was talking about. And you got to combine that stuff. There's no one fail-safe strategy that you can use these days that's going to be perfect. It's just a reality.
And it's getting worse, so we need to be more vigilant. And speaking of vigilant, man, the hour comes and goes really quickly, man. We're over time. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming on here. If anybody's out there, and obviously the security landscape is changing daily. Guys like Adam and Richard, this is what they do. They spend way too much time researching the latest, greatest stuff that's happening on your behalf. Because as Stuart said, and I know this because I'm in dealerships all the time, to run a dealership, you have 50 million things that you need to do, and you get interrupted by twice as many. And there are things that come out of left field that are unplanned and unknown. There's no way you have the time to spend, but Richard and Adam have the time to spend because this is what they do. Okay. David Rozek put up a chat also. Some additional information. If you're not connected with David, I highly recommend you connect with him as well. These are people in the know. Okay. I always tell people, you don't have to necessarily know it. You just need to know somebody that does. But you need to be vigilant. So if you're not connected with us, by all means, if it's relevant for you and I, or you and Adam or Richard to connect, if you want to buy a car from Stuart, but don't wire all the money first, call him on the phone at the store.
Arizona.cars.
Arizona.cars. So thanks for watching, those that watch it live and those that will watch it on the replay. A lot of people watch it on the replay. Hope you have a safe and successful next week. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.